Right, so I've been meaning to make this video for a while, but the catalyst was my friend sent me a video, a news article, which was published in the UK, in the Daily Mail, which is one of the national newspapers of the UK, of the curriculum that some schools were teaching kids between, I think, the ages of 8 and 10 or something like this, which included masturbation, all this non-binary stuff, what else? Orgasms and stuff like this, right? So it got me thinking. Number one, they're too young to experience these feelings anyway, because for me, I can only speak about myself, but when I was a normal kid, had a great childhood, blah, 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 I wouldn't have thought that I would even have the notion of or concept of like orgasms and stuff in my mind till I was well into puberty, right? So it's not really a practical thing, because even if you teach them the stuff, they can't really apply it. Nor is it really something that's even in their sphere of their world, you know, their world, what do you call it? Their world. It's not really a big issue there. At age 8, 9, 10, sex is not really a big thing in your world. You know, anyway, let's put that to one side. So it got me thinking, like, okay, let's look at the world we live in right now and the problems it's facing. Some real, some fake, but it's facing problems nonetheless, right? So if we start to look at the problems of the world, what we are looking for are solutions, right? Highly sexualized kids, or kids that have a great understanding of sex at a young age, doesn't really add much value to the world as it is. You just have sexualized people, and that's stupid, really, because what does that mean in the real world? It means nothing. You're just okay, cool, you found expression, or sexual expression, or whatever. But what does that? How does that translate into solving the world's problems? It doesn't, you know. And for me, it's like, for us to get down the list, the pecking order, the order of preference, you know, down to sex education, that means we would have sidestepped at least 1,000 different topics we could teach kids before we got down to the number 1,000, which is sex education for kids. So I'm just going to go through a short list of some of the things that we could teach kids. Okay, so we can teach kids how to think critically, how to ask questions. We could teach kids art. We could teach kids how to make music. We could teach kids how to critique art. We could teach kids to have solution-based thinking. We could teach them to look for solutions. We could teach them survival skills, which include hunting, fishing, foraging. We could teach them life skills. We could teach them swimming. We could teach them martial arts. We could teach them how to grow their own food, how to look after plants, how to look after livestock. We could teach them how to repair their stuff, how to look after their how to repair their broken toys, how to fix broken things. We could teach them the value of recycling. We could teach them how to run a home. We could teach them investment. We could teach them money. We could teach them interest rates and how it works. Although when you teach kids at that age, they tend to see the foolishness and the abject cruelty in that mode of operation. But that's another conversation for another day. So let's just stick to the facts. We could teach them how to trade. We could teach them how to sell things. We could teach them how to barter. Better still, we could teach them how to negotiate. We could teach them project management skills. We could teach them basic engineering. We could teach them coding. You know, like they do in China. We could teach them how to build components. We could teach them sports. You know, there's a wide array of sports that will suit any and every single taste. We could teach them how to fight, how to push back, how to stand for themselves. We could teach them self-esteem techniques, confidence. We could teach them how to find purpose in life. I mean, if you're talking about teaching kids, you know, that, they have how they feel based on, I feel like I'm a boy, or I feel like I'm a girl, or I feel like I'm a this, or I feel like I'm a that, like whatever it is, right? Then we can also teach them these things. Because if we're saying that they're capable to make these decisions, then they should be capable and able to make decisions around those things as well. We can teach them how to operate a weapon or use a weapon. We could teach them strategy. Whilst we're on the subject of strategy, we could teach them chess. You know, how to think very logically and overcome obstacles. We could teach them physics. We could teach them the basics of electricity, how to generate electricity from water, from air. Teach them how to build basic circuits. What else? We could teach them how to operate a car engine, how to troubleshoot basic things in a car engine. Yeah, because I mean, if you're teaching them things that could potentially bring a life into the world, or essentially completely take their life onto a path, say for instance they went down the sex change route, right? Took their life down onto a path that, you know, it comes with a lot of responsibility, then the things I've mentioned are child's play for a kid. You know, they could bring a life into the world, so surely them knowing how to do all these things is actually really basic, you know. But yeah, could teach them all these things, and that's not even an exhaustive list. This is just a kind of off the top of my head, whilst on my daily walk list, right? Could teach them how to, you know, design things. Could teach design, basic architecture. Could teach them that, you know. It's crazy. It's crazy what the world has become, man. Because we have problems that are not being addressed. Instead of the problems being addressed, we are addressing things that are not even things. So imagine you have a house which has a massive, like, hole in the ceiling, smashed windows, broken door. The house is destroyed. Okay? This is where we can get into the geopolitics of it, but I'm not even in the program anymore anyway about who's actually pushing these agendas. I don't care. It's all fucking 3D stuff. But I'm just making this analogy for simplicity. So you have this house which has a broken door, broken window, it's very easy to get into the house. And instead of the people in the house, namely the mother, the father, parents, the grown-ups, teachers, you know, uncles, aunties, council, whoever's in the house, to be more kind of proactive in dealing with these issues which are glaring, like let's board up the windows, let's make the house watertight so water doesn't come in and destroy the house, etc., etc., etc. We are talking about the fact that little Timmy could make the choice of whether he wants to be a boy or a girl. You know? That's the choice we're making. whether little Timmy is a boy or a girl. But we have bigger fish to fry. However little Timmy feels about his sexuality, we could talk about that later on over dinner, once the house is fixed. Until the house is fixed, it's pretty silly for us to focus any energy whatsoever on that, you know. Not to mention, who's actually bankrolling this stuff? Because at the moment there's a court case, isn't it, happening with the Tavistock Centre, which is an NHS kind of thing with the shadowy figures behind it. You could do your own research. I'm not here to talk about these people, not even worth my energy. But the point is, there are organizations that, obviously with the government's buy-in, you know, giving kids medicines to block their hormones and give them hormone replacement therapy, put them on lists to get sex transplants and all that sort of stuff. And it's like, it's the same thing as the old adage, if you build it, they will come. It's like, if you have the supply, the demand will come. So if you say, you make sex education and all this talk about sex changes and transsexuals and all this other stuff, you make it, you create the supply of it, and it's always in the news, always in news articles, and you know, you basically can't even talk about it because it's like the thing now, right? Then ultimately people will be drawn to it and find ways to align themselves with it. That's probably the best way to say it, you know. So wow, the universe is actually really, really funny, you know. I just had a major synchronicity, but that's another story for another day. But they'll find ways to align themselves with it, and once they have this alignment with it, they will perceive that as their ultimate truth, because it's there. People are talking about it, so it must be real, it must be credible, it must be a real thing, right? I must be feeling the same way, even if I have undiagnosed mental health issues, or I'm suffering from PTSD from abuse or trauma or whatever it is. I'm not saying, again, even the fact that I have to qualify this statement is a testament to where the world has got to. The fact that I have to qualify this statement and say, I'm not saying that everybody in that boat is in that situation, and rightly so, for fear of being cancelled or censored. This is the second time I had a previous channel and it got taken off because I spoke about certain things, and I feel like whether, according to the terms of YouTube, yes, it's your platform, but if people can be there talking about things like, you know, all these sex changes and you know, advocating for whatever, and queers going to schools to, not queers, what do you call them, cross-dressers and stuff, going to kids' schools to read them stories, and that's on your platform, and that's open and inclusive in your opinion, then it should be open and inclusive for people to also talk about the other side of it. And this is something that the whole world is missing, because if we can't discuss both sides of an argument, then it's not an argument, it's not a discussion. It's a statement. It's a blanket statement. And if you're making blanket statements, then you're essentially force-feeding people your position, which is dictatorship or authoritarianism. Call it what you want, but that's what it is. Anybody that's studied any degree of human psychology or history will know what I'm talking about, because that's how it happens. Because if we can't entertain both sides of a conversation, then it's not a conversation. Because if you can tell me that, yeah, it's good to do this and it's good to look at, but yet I can't say the other side, and because that's disrespectful, or you take me off or whatever, that's insane. Because surely not everybody agrees. So even if, because we live in a democratic system, right? So even if, here's the kicker, even if, right, 10 people disagree with the king in the village, right? Those 10 people are not like completely silenced. They exist. And I'll give you an example. There's Speaker's Corner in the UK, right? So even if there's people that are against the monarchy, the UK, there's the Speaker's Corner, there's a space for them to actually go there and vent and state their position, etc., 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 right? But if no such space exists, and that's even in the monarchy, if no such space exists in a democratic system, then it's not a real system. It's nonsense, basically. It's not real. It's not tangible, right? Because essentially what's been created then is just dictatorship operating under the guise of open and inclusive speech and democracy. You know? So if it's a democratic system, then these views should be allowed. People should be able to express how they feel about certain things. You know, whether it offends somebody or not, we should be able to talk about it, because the flip side of it is, what if all those things, you know, sex education in school for kids and all that type of stuff, right? I find it offensive. What if I find it offensive? Then where's my remedy? Where is where's my kind of like my remedy, or my space where I can, you know, express or be kind of heard? It doesn't exist, you know. And I was having a conversation with one of my friends, and I told him, this was just yesterday, he called me and he had a massive rant about society and stuff like that. And I said to him, what you have to recognize though, bro, is, you know, ultimately, one second, hold on. I said, a surefire sign, a sure way of knowing that a person or society, macro, doesn't really matter, is moral, is that they don't negotiate certain values. They don't compromise on certain things. It's the line, right? There are certain things that are sacred, and that's it. So if in this system that we live, the one thing that we all kind of universally, when I say universally, I mean the entire globe, well, we don't live on a globe, but the entire world kind of agrees that children are sacred, vulnerable, and completely off limits. If this system has no reservations in taking something that's also sacred but could be quite base in its application to children, then it tells you everything you need to know about the system you live in. That's it. So, yeah, sad times, man.